The final match between Sentinels and the Guard on Icebox was absolutely the highlight of the night, going to double OT and netting millions of worldwide viewers on match point. But it's becoming increasingly obvious that there's a lot to learn from the teams too, especially in Sentinels' perspective. Welcome back to Esports Driven, and today we're going to be breaking down the Sentinels vs Guard LCQ Icebox match, round by round, in an attempt to showcase the trials and tribulations pro players still face when exploring Icebox as a map. We'll also be documenting the proper methods to winning rounds that occasionally went unused by both teams. All of that explained right now. The first area of interest we want to explore is round 2. The Sentinels won out the pistol by maintaining the A site choke points with Viper's Toxic Screen. On this round, however, we get a prime example of how the traditional attacker Viper wall for the Icebox B site always fails. This is what it looks like, and bizarrely enough, this is what's expected of Viper players on the relevant map. First off, the wall doesn't cut off this off angle TEN's utilized to one-tap trend off the B green container, so already this smoke isn't great. Secondly, the way the wall is oriented allows the guard zero site control besides the opening plant zone, and to win the B site properly, these power positions shown here have to be taken over by the attackers. Otherwise, this signals to the Sentinels that no guard player is going to be pushing past this area. This allows them to take advantage of the microscopic play space the guard allows themselves to have, and stall out the one and only valid plant position available to them with Shroud's Viper mollies. Now, what's interesting here is you actually see the guard attempting to push the site as a team, and this is what should happen on an orthodox B site execute. But the guard uses no utility to fight the defenders who already have better guns than them, combined with zero smokes to cut off the long angles on orange. This leads to a 10-second cleanup for the Sentinels, and as expected, a quick round loss for Guard. Speaking of roughly 10 seconds, let's review round 3. This round is more interesting as both teams have strong guns, so it's not immediately obvious who should win the round yet. This time they place slightly better smokes utilizing the Guard's fantastic Brimstone pick, which is always a welcome sight to see in pro Icebox matches. Valane gets the spike down and the Guard forfeits all site control to play a catastrophic post plant in the little map control they previously attained. Now, let's put a timer on screen to showcase just how fast this Sentinels retake begins. 12 seconds. That is how long it took for virtually every Sentinels member to retake the site. Because of the guard's inability to hold the intended area, they now are tasked with stalling the defuse for about 30 extra seconds if their intent is to detonate the spike. Notice on the minimap how clumped up and uncomfortable this is for the guard. They are quite literally cornered, but completely on their own accord. This is what they wanted, and pre-planned as a team as the best course of action for this bomb site. Valen and Jonah P quickly fall because of their bad positioning, and Sentinels take an unexpected round 3. From experience in watching loads of pro play and thousands of hours of Immortal Ranked, winning round 3 after losing the pistol is very expected of teams, as they get the weapons advantage and 2 whole rounds beforehand to conceptualize how the enemy team plays, but due to the guard's haphazard site execution, it costs them big time. So a lot of you may be asking, how do you get proper site control then? After all, if the pros are using these smoke strategies, then it must be optimal, right? This is a classic case of pluralistic ignorance and is a real phenomenon in social psychology. What's happening here is these smokes on B site have been so normalized that any other method of execution seems taboo, and when prize money is on the line, most professionals would rather just stick to what quote-unquote works. Now, we're emphasizing the word works because technically a 40% success rate works. If you go to a casino and play slots and then win money, then isn't that a successful endeavor? Well, no, because with an analytical eye, you'd quickly realize that a 40% success rate in the big picture is costing them precious rounds. And for disclaimer, this 40% statistic is a rough estimate, but watching the entire VOD again, it's obvious that the site execute was doomed to fail more often than not. Let's once and for all properly visualize how the Icebox B site should be taken as attackers, and we're going to be using the guard's team composition for consistency too. Double smoke comps are great at taking map control and for denying info, so we'll start with them, as they're the integral role for these rounds to be won properly. For Viper, we're going to reorient this toxic screen across the orange stack. This allows the guard to fully walk around the bomb site and clear site as a team, without having to worry about getting shot in the back from the mid tube or the snow pile. This wall is also great because for post plant, as this creates a choke point they can hold from numerous positions on site. and for Brimstone, we're going to place his smokes for Snowman and for Kitchen. Pro players know better than to mindlessly run out of smokes, so these placements would all be structurally solvent. From here, Valen and Trent's KO and Fade will do the entry work clearing the site, and creating some chaos simultaneously. The bomb optimally goes down top site, as this is now a valid angle for the guard to utilize and take space of. Planting top site not only requires the Sentinels to defuse in an uncomfortable position, but also assess the part of the site too, which means coming from Kitchen or taking a super risky rope climb up. And remember that Kitchen smoke we did with Brim? Well, we'll be re-smoking it with his remaining utility. On screen now are simple yet highly effective post-plant positions the guard should have played. Under sight, top sight, danger, and close orange all do the job, and are the intended positions the Riot developers wanted you to play in the first place. Another point of interest I wanted to quickly cover is on round 5. Now I'm not sure why they had Jonah P entering as Brimstone, especially on the rope, but the Sentinels made an equally bad mistake by purchasing a Vandal while holding the A site. Besides the initial peeks into belt or from screens, the Vandal has no real advantage here. Dapper makes a quick trade thanks to his better gun and positioning, but then again it's only a Spectre, and he quickly falls to Trent. Shroud over on the B site grabs a gun from mid and saves. Now I do want to praise the guard for their innovative thinking on round 6, and it's what ultimately gave them the edge by the time they swapped sides. The guard slow walks Net, Jonah P, and Valen up to the smoke. The guard explodes out into orange with a KO flash over the tube. This gives Net a window to walk out with and punish the over-aggressed Zelsis. Jonah P has the read that a defender would sneak up on them from pallet, and once the smoke fades, Shazam gets promptly punished. At this point, it's a 4v2 in the guard's favor, and they decide to play a safe post plant in B main. My only gripe here is after all of the space they just took, they would rather put themselves into that awful, claustrophobic post plant position they failed so many times at in rounds 2 and 3. Ideally, in a mid to B split, you want to leave players holding power positions on the way to the site, such as on Snowpile, in Kitchen, or just on site. Nonetheless, guard takes another deserved round. Two things I wanted to highlight on round 10. We yet again see this over-aggression by TenZ without any kind of weaponry to back him. He spots the shoulder of Trent next to Generator and haphazardly sprints at him instead of falling back to a more favorable angle. As expected, Trent destroys TenZ with his Phantom. This is a perfect example of over-peaking and not playing your life. You see this too often in ranked games, and it sucks to see it happen in pro matches too. As a defender, trades will always go in the favor of the attackers, as your death creates an opening in the map that will be overrun by your opponents. The other thing I wanted to mention is how we still see players planting in this spot on the A site. On this site, there is no real advantage to planting here. As for one, Sentinels have a Sova and a Viper, so plant denial is always a favor in play. Like we just discussed, it can't be played off for anyone that isn't on site. Instead, what the guard should be trying to do is plant top site, which ironically is even easier to access and harder to punish. When we plant up here, notice there's very few ways for the spike not to go down. Lineups are much harder to land up on top site, and there's no way to get shot besides a precise spam from backside CT. Not only that, but the spike is now visible to virtually everyone on A site. We'd like to see this utilized more in the future by teams. An interesting and very rare mid-split to A was put to fruition by the guard, and it's why they're so entertaining to watch and study. Yet again, using the secondary controller, it allows them to confidently get into backside A with minimal resistance from defenders rotating through spawn. Unfortunately, Trent gets picked off by TenZ, who at the time was anchoring B site. To this day, I don't understand why an initiator is lurking on the site the guard never intended to hit, but here we are. Lucky enough for Sentinels, Shroud had ulted A site instead of B, funneling the rest of the guard players into the poison gas. Jonah P and Valen weren't in very optimal positions as they didn't want to give up the map control they just attained. Some swift gunfights ensue and the Sentinels take the round. Round 12 again showcases TenZ not playing chamber properly by taking the superficially aggressive position just outside B main. Due to the way angle advantage works, and on top of how long the operator gun barrel is, Saya player finds TenZ first from the longer angle. If TenZ had simply played an off angle somewhere in yellow, he could secure a much simpler frag. And of course, since he's chamber, teleport out instantly and continue the sight hold elsewhere. Fortunately for Sentinels, the guard puts themselves in the same trap as they had personally set up in rounds 2 and 3, with this zero sight control strategy. Yet again, within 10 seconds, the entirety of Sentinels is in control of the B site, and the defuse begins with the Sage Wall helping Zelsa stick the bomb. Look at the minimap and where every guard player is standing. Does this look like pro play to you? Does this look like months of training and map strategy coming to fruition? Zelsis quite literally sticks the entire defuse in full, and the guard, after scoring the easiest and most important frag of the round, somehow manages to lose anyway. Well, it's not exactly somehow. We've already discussed why they lose these B post plans. Remember, this is the 3rd time out of 4 during the opening half that this quote strategy has failed them. And yet, as we'll see in a second, the Sentinels will do the exact same things. The second half of this match and much more covered in part 2 of this video, which is on screen now. If you want to see more pro match breakdowns in the future, subscribe to Esports Driven to never miss out on premium quality content like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in part 2.